Your brother decided that it would be awesome. I will do whatever it takes to get into this frat.
I'm expected to make some lifelong friends.
Whatever it takes.
In this frat that are gonna make it as hard as possible.
It's under control.
Hello, lovelies. It's me, Monica, back with another true crime story. I'm going to do the second half of the hazing in the 2010s. And it's really sad that we have to separate the parts. There's so many kids and young adults that are being practically murdered by hazing just because they want to experience that college life. I'm going to start 2014. We have a boy named Trevor Duffy. It happened November 17th, 2014, and it was at the Zeta Beta Tau unaffiliated, unsanctioned fraternity. It was the University of Albany. It was November 15th, and he died from alcohol poisoning. He was promised by the brothers of the underground fraternity that no one was ever killed while pledging. After a night of being forced to consume a handle or a bottle with about 60 ounces of vodka, the 19-year-old sophomore from the Bronx was found unconscious in a bathroom at the fraternity's house. Unfortunately, he died 2 days later. As a few friends frantically tried to save Duffy, the brothers argued over whether to call the police for help. I mean, you should. Feel like you would be less in trouble than trying to cover it up and not getting him help sooner. There were two that was expelled from college for this incident. They were two of 24 sanctioned during university's investigation and disciplinary hearing. But two were disciplined and expelled, but then he wouldn't state of the other 22 of how they were disciplined. So no one even knows how these students that were involved were disciplined for their actions. They just kept it a secret, kept their, I guess, investigation closed. I don't know. But that was the university's investigation. But students' account at the university hearing, several of the pledges were overheard in the waiting room discussing how they would protect their brothers at any cost and target those they've held grudges against. After Albany police launched an investigation, the department said that in order to be considered hazing a crime, police must confirm that the drinking was part of initiation or a ritual and that a victim was intentionally put in danger. But the university, their process found that the Duffy's death was the result of hazing. Bam, cut. They said it. There have not been any arrest for this. The two that were arrested actually, the two that were expelled was Zachary Gallus and Keith Rosengarten. Say the combined cases of 24 students prevented them from a fair and partial hearing, among other issues. Their appeal to the university was denied because they were trying to get the university to overturn. They went to the Supreme Court, y'all, and tried to get the university overturn their decision of them being expelled because they said it wasn't fair because it was 22 other kids that were involved and they were there, and why were they being singled out? I don't know. The testimony, Gallus was not at the November 16th party, but was involved in previous hazing rituals. Rosengarten was at the party and was Duffy's donating a big brother, someone who should have been watching over Duffy's intake of alcohol, according to the students in the court documents. Okay. The November 15th event, which ran into November 16th, was one of several tradition nights the pledges were required to attend, according to the court documents. These nights included a banged night where pledges were told to do an exercise and answer questions about ZPT and the Greek alphabet. Fight night where they had to fight each other, resulting in several bloody noses. Mike night is when they were told to drink excessive amounts of milk, ending with many vomiting, and then there's an onion night where 20 onions had to be consumed between 11 pledges. That's gross. Other hazing rituals described were having the pledges run errands, clean houses, sell marijuana brownies, and in one case, eat the insides of a Dutch master cigar. But on the night of Duffy's death, student Emily, a friend, attended the party and walked in to find him passed out on the couch, according to court documents. At that time, he appeared to be in a decent shape and smiled when she shook him and said hello, she said in a statement to police. Emily described seeing other pledges with handles of liquor, being told to chug it. After 1 a.m., she found Duffy passed out, sitting on the floor of the shower with Rosengarten standing over him. Emily checked back later to find him in worse condition. The color was completely drained from his face and his lips were bluish purple, she said. His head was slumped down and drool was dripping out of his nose and mouth. Emily ran to get help from friends upstairs, and when she returned, she kept yelling for someone to call an ambulance. Her phone's battery was dead. Several males ran into the bathroom and were arguing about whether to call the police. And after another partygoer called 911, the males argued to move Duffy outside so police wouldn't have to come into the residence. Another student named Allison said similar. She tried to do CPR on him because she was a trained lifeguard, but he was dragged outside. 4 other students were rushed to the Albany Medical. One of them, a pledge, said he was told his blood test positive for drugs, including ketamine. So none of the students seeking admission to the fraternity had knowingly taken drugs. So the pledges concluded that their drinks were spiked according to court documents. That is so fucking scary, y'all. It is unclear whether Duffy ingested drugs or whether they contributed to his death. Now, the Duffy's family filed a notice of claim with the state general's office on December 12th. They were seeking $55 million for the negligence and loss of services and wrongful death from the university. To combat hazing, the university has a rigorous program in place, putting out information to students and parents, specifically stressing the importance of students speaking up. They said the institution cannot be everywhere all the time, he said. The most power deterrent is peer to peer. Well, these are kids. These are, no offense, but stupid college kids. They want to be friends. They want to feel included. It is peer pressure. It's like, don't be the Debbie Downer. That's how other kids feel, and they're scared to speak up. All right, so this is what happened. The 2 men have been charged in the death of the 19-year-old. They were arrested and charged with 1 misdemeanor count of hazing. They were arraigned and released on their own. And that's it. They didn't go to jail, like not jail, because they were released and they just have a misdemeanor court of hazing. A misdemeanor for someone's death. As a big brother in a fraternity, you have responsibility to make sure your little brother is safe and okay and does not get hurt while they are doing the hazing process. Just don't understand why they can't be more responsible. All right, the next one is Nolan Birch, Kappa Sigma. This happened November 14th, 2014, West Virginia University. He was only 18 years old, y'all. He died of alcohol poisoning during the following initiation function referred to Big Little. Birch was taken back to the fraternity house following the function because of his high level of intoxication. Shortly before midnight, another member of Kappa Sigma noticed that Birch's face had a blue coloration to it and was unable to wake him. The fraternity brothers started CPR and dialed 911, but he died 2 days later at the hospital. His blood alcohol count was measured at 0.493%. The fraternity brother who provided Birch with the bottle of alcohol was charged with 1 count of hazing and 1 count of conspiracy to commit hazing. I know a lot of states are already doing felonies for this stuff, but not all states are, and it really needs to get passed. Because if they know if something happens to one of their frat members, they might be a little bit more responsible and less people will die, especially if they know that they will be charged with murder. It blows my mind, y'all, and it upsets me so much. People want to mourn his death and respect who he was. He was a good kid. said vigil attendee Mark, a freshman who lives in the same residence hall as Birch and shared the same friends. I spoke to his roommate last night. He was really shaken up. It was really tough on him. I think it hits home with everyone because Birch did have a lot of friends here, and that easily could have been any one of his friends. Police have detailed the circumstances surrounding the death of Birch, who was from Buffalo, New York area, or whether hazing or alcohol might have been involved. When police arrived at the Kappa Sigma fraternity, they said they found a man performing CPR on Birch, who was unconscious and laying on the floor. Now, these fraternity frat bros did right. When they realized something was wrong, they started CPR and they called 911. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. They were trying to help their friend. But these kids also need to learn how to put people in the rest safe position where you put someone on their side, because a lot of people that are drunk will throw up and choke on their throw up and die, and no one would even know it. So it's good to lay people down on their side like you would if you're sleeping on your side. There's a name for it. I just can't think of it right now. I will put in a video to show y'all what that looks like and maybe educate some of these people that if your friend is passed out drunk, you need to put them in this position so they do not choke on their own throat and aspirate and die. Both the chapter and school were notified Monday. Prior to Wednesday's tragedy, the group charter had been withdrawn and its operations were closed. In response, a university spokeswoman confirmed student activities have been notified verbally and the Kappa Sigma group charter was revoked. Okay, so they said, nope, y'all did wrong. In addition to one day's incident, school officials also cited another reason for the temporary suspension of all Greek activities. Birch's family is upstate New York, rushed to West Virginia after the news. Birch, who graduated from Buffalo's high school in 2014 and worked at a car wash, was remembered by friends as someone who loved hockey and got along with everybody. He was reportedly studying pre-sports management. The family is devastated. Before he went to college, I was like, good luck, man. Just be safe and everything. And that's all I said to him. I wish I would have went down there to see him before everything happened. It was heartbreaking when I found out. Now, Jordan Hankins, he turned himself in to the police, and he was charged with hazing and conspiracy to commit hazing. The first arrest and his death was made Wednesday. Richard Schwartz, 20, was also on one of the Birch's fraternity brothers, was charged with one count of hazing and conspiracy to commit hazing. They said that Birch, well, when they did the test, because he was still alive at the point, but when they did the test of his blood, he had 6 times the legal limit in his system. I just don't understand how people don't understand what's enough and just stop. Now, Tucker Hips, he passed away September 22, 2014, Sigma Phi Epsilon, Clemson University. Tucker Hips was participating in a group run with his fraternity around 5:30 a.m. when he fell from a bridge into shallow waters of Lake Hartwell. He died of head injuries from the fall. The fraternity members reported that he got separated from the group and didn't return from the run. He was reported missing, and his body was found later on that day. The police investigating his death released a statement that they were unable to find any link between hazing and his death, but it was widely speculated, particularly on social media, that the death resulted from hazing. Because of the widespread rumors, the President's Council of Clemson voted to suspend pledge activities. Hips' family filed a lawsuit against Clemson University and the fraternity, and also 3 fraternity brothers. Citing an unnamed witness, they alleged that Hips was forced to walk the narrow railing of the SC-93 bridge before the thaw. So that means that they were doing like a fraternity run, and they're like, hey dude, we dare you to do this. He did it, and he fell. And then they just left him there. They left him there and goes, oh, we don't know what happened to him. He went missing, on our run. That is such bullshit. New court documents in the family's $25 million lawsuit alleged that political science major was forced to walk along a narrow bridge railing in the hazing incident before he fell to his death. Hipps died nearly a year ago as he was pledging. It took months for the criminal investigation into his death has been at a standstill as officials were unable to determine exactly what happened in the early hours of September 22. They may change the motion. That may change with the motion filed in court this week. It does not answer some questions, Hip's mother said. It connects some of the dots. There's still some dots missing. We want the whole truth, though. The family believes that 3 of the members are blamed for the death and try to cover it up after the fact. They are suing in South Carolina State Court, and the new allegation is part of the request to amend their lawsuit with new details. One of the fraternity brothers named in the suit, Samuel Carney, he's accused of organizing the event. The suit also names 2 other brothers, Thomas Carter King and Campbell T. Starr, and says the 3 have all been deceptive and failed to be forthcoming with police. And that Starr deleted text messages and switched phone numbers after Hip's death. Yeah, he wanted to get rid of evidence. Hip's body was found floating in Lake Hartwell hours after he died. Until now, there was no official account of how he ended up in the lake, according to lawsuit. The lawsuit also says that the pledges were forced to participate in a pre-dawn run hazing ritual, despite the fact that early morning runs have been banned by the National Sigma Phi Epsilon fraternity and violated Clemson's hazing policy. A text that went out to the pledges said, "Wear dark clothes so we're not spotted." A brother texts Hipps telling him to bring McDonald's breakfast for 30 people, but when he showed up without it, there was a confrontation. Wow. So maybe, this is my speculation, just speculation. They told him to bring breakfast for 30 people. He didn't. So they wanted to punish him in front of everybody for not listening to orders. And they made him walk this rail and he slipped and fell, and then they tried to cover it up. They said that they forced Tucker to get onto the narrow railing along the bridge and walk some distance of the bridge on top of the railing. It goes on to say Tucker slipped from the railing and caught the railing under his arms, tried to climb back onto the bridge unassisted, lost his grip on the bridge, and fell head first into the water below, striking his head on the rocks in the shallow water. After Tucker fell, King shined the flashlight on his cell phone into the dark waters below, looking for Tucker, but no one tried to rescue him, according to the lawsuit, which also says they waited at least 3 hours before looking for him and didn't call campus police to help until 7 hours later. The lawsuit also says that the brothers stalled Hip's girlfriend when she asked where he was. They said Hip's had been spotted in the library. Wow, they are just lying out their fucking asses. An autopsy later found he had injuries to his arms and legs, and his head injury was consistent with a headfirst fall. There was a witness and described seeing several kids on the bridge as he is going over the bridge, and one of them was on the railing. He's not quite sure of the time or the day. In a statement, Adams goes on to say he describes the students as laughing and having a good time, which would indicate there was no force or hazing involved. He said the students he described were wearing orange, when Phipps and the fraternity brothers were wearing dark clothes, supposedly. So that might have been some other time, other kids on the bridge. In addition, the witness drove on the bridge on his way to the gym at Clemson. The sheriff's department says records show he did not go to the gym that day. So they're saying that maybe he was lying. I don't know. Hip's parents are outraged that county officials have dismissed this new witness in a statement. They said, "While we believe that counsel making public comment on the credibility or substance of witness statements is both inappropriate and prejudicial, we're compelled by recent events to respond. We could not disagree more with Ms. Adams' opinions regarding the credibility of the new witness or the witness statements. We have sincere hope that the people of this community will refrain from drawing conclusions until all evidence has been presented." Carney, King, and Starr have responded to the original suit denying the substance of the allegations, pinning the negligence on Hipps and asking that the suit is dismissed. King's attorneys wrote in a court filing that he denies the allegations there was a confrontation over a lack of breakfast. Starr's attorney denied he'd witnessed anyone go over the bridge over Lake Hartwell and says he only changed his cell phone number because he was being harassed by media. Hip said her son, with his contagious smile and big bright eyes, was the kind of person who took homeless people to lunch, even though he was just a college kid with little money. He had chosen Sig up because he had plans to go to law school after graduation and believed the fraternity might help him get internships. Plus, she said he was an only child who was always looking to be around others. He was looking for brotherhood. His dad and I miss him so terribly. He is still the first thing and the last thing we think about every day, and he is just terribly missed. That is freaking heartbreaking. Why are people not held accountable? All right, we have Armando Villa. He passed away July 1st, 2014 in Pi Kappa Phi, California State University, Northridge. Villa died following an 18-mile group hike with other pledges near Big Tujunda Canyon Road and Angeles National Forest. According to the attorney who represented Villa's parents, the group ran out of water at some point during the hike, and Villa left the group in search of more water. He was later found unresponsive, lying face down in a culvert. What? Other pledges told authorities that they didn't realize Villa was any worse off than the other hikers. He died from heat stroke. His family is suing CSUN and the fraternity. Prosecutors denied to charge the fraternity president, stating the group hike on a hot day with inadequate water supply did not fit the traditional definition of hazing. They argued that hazing deaths are usually the result of excessive alcohol consumptions, drugs, or physical injury inflicted by fraternity members, and Villa's death was not due to those causes. No, 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 no. They are coming out with a lot of different ways to do hazing. And this could have been. It's a punishment. Walking without water for long time, like long distances, would be a punishment for someone. Seeing how far they can go. He was only 19 years old, y'all. Armando Villa was on an overnight trip with other members of Pi Kappa Phi when they reportedly ran out of water around 5:30 p.m. And supposedly he lost consciousness on the trail as he was trying to go find water. He later died at the hospital. Villa family believes he was a victim of hazing during initiation. His aunt Maria says that he was left in the woods without shoes or water and was expected to find his way out. Oh my God, that takes another turn. To know what he was out there alone suffering and we couldn't do anything. We couldn't do anything to help him. It's just wrong, said Maria. Wow, that takes a different take on that. So they were forced to walk miles and then just left and said, okay, survive, find your way out. I would be furious if someone did that to one of my kids. The university says it reached out to the family and is ceasing activity of the frat until the investigation is over. They said the homicide detectives believe Villa's death was accidental, possibly the result of heat stroke. The exact cause of death, however, will be determined by the coroner's office. Now, the Villas did file a lawsuit against the university, the administrators, and the fraternity, alleging negligence and hazing. I think it was. Why else would they be on a hike like that? They took him out there with no water. We're just looking for a little closure and justice, Villa's mother Betty said. They've ruined a life and broken a family. The lawsuit alleges that fraternity members forced pledges to go on a dangerous hike without adequate supplies as a last ritual before they could become full-fledged members. The lawsuit said these university had a duty to oversee fraternity activities and should have been aware and have stopped any hazing that was happening. And it makes me so mad that this university's like, oh, it wasn't hazing because it's not this, this, or this, or this. It doesn't effing matter because these kids are going to try to work around the rules and stuff and still haze. And they will go outside of the box to do it so they don't get in trouble. So, in my opinion, this was hazing. Hazing is stupid, senseless, dangerous, and against the law in California. It is a vestige of a toxic way of thinking in which it's somehow okay to degrade, humiliate, and potentially harm others. Now, the next person that we have to talk about is Michael. His real name was Chun Michael Ding. He passed away December 8th, 2013, Pi Delta Psi, Baruch College. He died following a hazing ritual named glass ceiling while on a retreat in the Poconos. He was blindfolded and wearing a backpack filled with 20 pounds of sand. He fell over after being pushed, striking his head. After he lost consciousness, fraternity members delayed seeking medical assistance for 2 hours. He died 2 days later at the hospital. Michael grew up in Queens, New York, as an only child in a first-generation immigrant family from China. The outgoing teenager excelled in academics and athletics and was very close to his family. Michael decided to stay in the New York City for college, enrolling at Baruch College, which is part of the City University of New York. On the morning of December 8th, 2013, as his first semester of freshman year drew too close, his mother, Mary, got the unexpected call that her son had been rushed to the hospital with traumatic injuries. The next day, Michael was dead. Unbeknownst to Mary, her son was pledging the Asian American fraternity Pi Delta Psi at college. Police said the 18-year-old died after a hazing ritual at a home the fraternity rented in Pennsylvania's mountains. The shocking case helped expose the dangerous world of fraternity pledging and showed the major consequences. He did not have any sort of alcohol in his system, and the 3 young men who brought him in did not seem to be under the influence. However, these men were not providing the level of detail that one would expect you to have if your friend had suffered such a traumatic injury. So they were like dancing around the questions. Police also set out to speak with the students who remained back at the rental house. Officers felt those students at the house were giving them false narratives. Eventually, the students admitted they were all in the same fraternity. The fact that they just failed to mention this was part of a fraternity was a big piece of information for them just to leave out innocently. An officer at the hospital confronted the 3 students who brought Michael in, saying he knew they were there for a fraternity gathering. One of those students reluctantly admitted Michael was injured during a ritual called the glass ceiling. Now, the glass ceiling, they did this at the rental house. Some students had already left to go back to New York, but police said they determined the students who remained at the rental house were omitting facts and avoiding answering questions about fraternity. When individuals get seriously injured in hazing incidents, police face a wall of silence. Individuals are committed to their brotherhood, so they try to protect each other. He would have survived. The pledge, while blindfolded, will be told to call out for his big brother from the other side of a field. This is how the glass ceiling goes. And as he's called out, he would try to navigate forward. There would be other brothers standing in the pledge's way. As that pledge made his way forward through the second tier, the physical contact would become more aggressive. Then the pledge educator would indicate the beginning of the third tier of the glass ceiling. The physical contact becomes much more severe. At this point, Michael is knocked to the ground so severely that he cannot stand back up on his own. Michael had been kicked in the head, and his speech was slurred, according to police. But Michael told by members of fraternity that he must continue forward. Michael was then hit violently by fraternity member Penny Kwan, who was the pledge assistant responsible for overseeing the ritual. Michael became motionless, according to police. Fraternity members brought him inside, tried to wake him up, and changed him out of wet clothes. Over 30 students were in the rental house at the time. While Michael was unconscious, the fraternity members contacted the national fraternity president, who allegedly told them to hide all fraternity-related items. The fraternity members waited for more than an hour before driving Michael to a hospital 45 minutes away. So they brought him inside, and then they tried to get rid of all the evidence. So that was about an hour. Then they got in the car and then drove 45 more minutes. So almost a 2-hour wait. He could have had a brain bleed, and they could have stopped it if he got to the hospital quick enough. The delay in treatment, significantly contributed to his death. They have gotten him to the hospital. he would have survived. And that is what the doctors and everyone is saying. So 37 defendants were ultimately charged in this case, facing a range of charges including aggravated assault and hazing. Everybody that lied to us during the course of the investigation, that was considered hindering apprehension. 4 fraternity members, Charles Lay, Kenny Kwan, Raymond Lam, and Sheldon Wong, pleaded guilty to voluntary manslaughter and hindering apprehensive. Kwan was sentenced to 12 to 24 months in prison. Wong and Lam were sentenced to 10 to 24 months, and Lay was released on time served after 342 days in custody. Dozens of others pleaded guilty to lesser charges and were sentenced to probation, according to the Associated Press. Can you believe that? Voluntary manslaughter, and they only got 2 years of prison. 2 years for taking someone's life. That makes me want to cry. The Pi Delta Psi fraternity itself was convicted of charges including involuntary manslaughter and aggravated assault. It was acquitted of more serious charges of third-degree murder and voluntary manslaughter. Lay was Michael's big brother in the frat, was in direct communication with the fraternity national president, Andy Ming, on the morning Michael was hospitalized. Andy Ming pleaded guilty to the misdemeanor charges and was sentenced to 36 months of probation for telling them to hide all the fraternity stuff. The fraternity was banned from Pennsylvania for 10 years and was ordered to pay a fine of more than $110,000. In the wake of Michael's death, Baruch said that it issued a moratorium on pledging and rush activities for all of its social fraternities and sororities, and it lasts through May 2024. So it just ended. And this happened in 2013, so it was for a while. It's horrifying that someone like Michael would die in a ritual where he's just trying to succeed. Michael was full of promise, full of pride for his family, and full of life. Peter Tran passed away April 24th, 2013, Lambda Phi Epsilon, San Francisco State University. During a crossover party where new members were initiated into the fraternity, Tran died of alcohol poisoning. He wasn't discovered until the next day. A member of the fraternity attempted to perform CPR, but Tran was pronounced dead at 1 p.m. on April 24th. The fraternity was expelled from the university following Tran's death. Tran was only 18 years old. Party, according to the resident of the home who wished to remain anonymous, was a crossover party in which new members are initiated into fraternity. Graham, who lived in San Francisco, was reportedly a pledge. Tran died at some point during the party, but partygoers did not notice his lifeless body in the house until the next day. First responders pronounced him dead. That is so freaking sad. The Tran family declined to be interviewed about the incident, but Tran's cousin Harry Tran started a Facebook page called The Legacy of Peter Tran, where he wrote to those who donated to Tran's funeral. While we are not 100% sure what happened to him, we were shocked, saddened, and confused, and at loss for words at what happened. We were 2 tenderloin kids who were supposed to make it out, one friend wrote on a large sheet of paper on the wall of the mortuary. Peter, I don't know why the good die young, another person wrote. Students at the party the night of the death could be charged with felony under Matt's law, which allows victims of hazing to pursue punishment against parties engaged in such acts, even allowing survivors of hazing to sue. The maximum sentence is a year in prison and a $5,000 fine. In the end, prosecution may be the best way to deter students from drinking. He praised the university's hard line on the fraternity, but said they need to do more. Yeah, what works and what proves to work in study after study is to have alcohol-free events. And the family doesn't even want, they just, nope, like they don't want to speak about it or anything. They're fucking heartbroken, and I feel so sad. This one is of 2 young men named Marvell Edmondson and Juan Holmes. They both passed away April 20th, 2013. Men of Honor, local unsanctioned fraternity at Virginia State University. Edmondson and Holmes drowned during an initiation rite for the underground fraternity known as Men of Honor. 7 students locked arms and attempted to cross the Appomattox River together. Fraternity members told police they completed this rite several months earlier without issue, and the water was shallow enough to make it across without swimming. On April 20th, however, the river had swelled considerably due to a recent storm and was moving more swiftly. The students quickly became submerged and were swept downstream. The other 5 men were rescued by members of the fraternity. 4 fraternity members pleaded guilty to involuntary manslaughter and hazing charges. Parents of 19-year-old Marvell Edmondson and 19-year-old Juan Holmes were strangers just a few weeks ago. They now share a heartbreaking bond. Their sons drowned together during hazing ritual. "I will never hear my son tell me he loves me again," said Kim Edmondson. "As a parent, you never in your wildest dreams imagine that you'll get a call that your child went missing when he's off at college," said William Holmes. The Chesterfield police say Charles Zollkoffer, James Mackey, Eric Benson, and Corey Baytop said Marvell, Juan, and 5 other freshmen to walk through the river as part of their initiation into the Men of Honor. The parents say the group tricked the boys into thinking it was a legitimate VSU organization, but they've since learned the group was not even recognized by VSU. Police say their task for initiation led to Juan and Marvell's death. Why was this at night? Why was it in 50-degree weather? Why were they only half dressed? That is an important question, and that's very sad that they made them do that. 50-degree weather? You can get frostbite and die. Chesterfield police charged the men with hazing, a misdemeanor in Virginia. It's a maximum penalty carried a year in jail and a $1,000 fine. I'm very fearful that they might get away with a slap on the wrist. They did. They did. 4 parents are pushing state lawmakers to make hazing a felony, especially when it ends in death. Most definitely. When it involves fatal injuries and death, somebody needs to be held accountable for it. If it's a felony, it may be a deterrent. There's some students who say maybe we need to think twice about initiating into this type of activity. That's exactly what I said earlier. The next one is Robert Tipton, March 26, 2012, Delta Sigma Pi, High Point University. Robert was only 22 years old. He was pledging when he was found unresponsive in an off-campus apartment on March 26, 2012. He was pronounced dead at the hospital later that day. The state medical examiner ruled that the oxymorphone overdose was the cause of death and no criminal charges were filed. The family filed a lawsuit against the fraternity and the members of the fraternity, alleging that Tipton was violently assaulted and battered during a fraternity counseling session, suffered blunt force trauma to his head, which led to his death. The suit also alleges that a fraternity member deleted text messages from Tipton's phone after his death to cover up the hazing. The suit contends the school was aware of the outrageous conduct by the fraternity and misrepresentative information about the frequency of incidents of hazing, violence, injuries, substance abuse, and other dangerous or illegal activities at HPU or within Delta Sigma Pi. When I read this, I was like, what the? Like, I highlighted this shit, y'all. The judge has dismissed High Point University and its security director, Jeffrey, don't care about his last name, from a wrongful death lawsuit brought by the family of a student who died from the fraternity hazing. A judge looked these parents in the eyes and said, no one's going to be accountable for your son's death, even though he was beat to death and probably forced to take the substance that were in his body. They were protecting those people. For some reason, this judge was protecting the university, and I don't know why. It's very fishy. And then get this. This is what the university said. We're gratified by the court's decision to dismiss the case against High Point University and our director. We take the safety of our students very seriously and are committed to providing a safe and secure learning environment. Robert Tipton's death at an off-campus residence was tragic, and we are sorry for his loss, but we strongly rejected the basis of the lawsuit. They're like, oh, it wasn't on campus. And they covered it up, so we're washing our hands clean of this. These are pieces of shit, people. The Tipton family plans to appeal the decision during spring break of 2012. Robert shared some fraternity secrets and ritual information with his girlfriend of Delta Sig. A lot of other members and most of other brothers' pledges heard about what Robert had shared and were upset. Reportedly, David Matheny was embarrassed and upset, as were others, over this leak, and they're thinking that's why. Wow. Delta Sig chapter president Andrew Morgan called a meeting in March to talk about keeping private information private. Everyone was reminded to keep their mouth closed. The secret information reportedly shared by Robert with friend Stacy Meyer did not reflect well upon Mahaffey. It is unclear as to whether or not Mahaffey spoke with Robert about this. Reportedly, Robert and Delta Sig brother Marshall Jefferson argued over the presence of one or more attendees, and he, Robert, allegedly being rude to brothers, pledges, and invitees. According to a friend, Alexandria, Robert was stressed out at the mixer and told her he did not want to be there and wanted to leave. He says they left early and he spent the night in her room. On Sunday morning, 3:25, she said Robert left saying he had a Delta Sig pledge stuff to accomplish. She says that this is the last time she spoke to Robert. Robert and another pledge returned to the frat house on 3:25 to clean up after the previous night's mixer. On the evening of 3:25, Robert and his fellow pledges met for dinner at an on-campus burger joint, The Point. Those pledges interviewed indicated Robert seemed a little down but appeared physically quite normal. No bruising or physical marks on his head or neck. I don't know. That sounds really fishy, y'all. And there wasn't a lot of information on this one like the other ones. But yes, he passed away, and the family is still fighting. That is so sad. I want y'all to know how important it is. And I know there are some young people that listen to my videos, and I really do want you to be reminded when you are with a group of people and everyone's drinking, or if you're at a frat and you see people, just step outside and call the police and be anonymous and get the ambulance there. You don't have to tell everyone you did it. You can stay anonymous. The next one is Philip Dannins. He passed away September 3rd, 2012. Theta Chi, California State University. It seems like a lot of these are in California, y'all. Philip passed away due to alcohol poisoning of 0.36 after a hazing event in which 15 pledges were placed in a room where they were told they had to drink 8 bottles of hard liquor in order to leave. His blood alcohol level was 0.36. The fraternity president pleaded no contest to a single misdemeanor charge of hazing and was sentenced to 3 years probation and community service. 2 other fraternity members pleaded no contest to a misdemeanor charge of hazing and providing alcohol to a minor causing death and were sentenced to 90 days to 30 days in jails. That's it. Do you understand? People are dead and they only get probation or 90 days up to 2 years in prison. Depends on what state. So they were charged. Leonard Serrato for the hazing death of Philip. The victim's mother embraced Serrato. She wanted to forgive him, y'all. This makes me want to cry. Diane's message in that moment was much the same as she expressed in court of both Serrato and fellow Theta Chi officer Aaron Ramo. She said this to them. I love you, boys, she said. Thank you for being young men of courage and integrity. They said Serrato bought the alcohol, and he egged Philip on to take his last large gulps of rum. Ramo was also held responsible along with fraternity president Daniel Baker, but prosecutors say those two were less to blame. Ramo actually gave Philip CPR as the 18-year-old fell unconscious with a blood alcohol content of 0.40. 2 years later, he told the parents' family he can't stop thinking about that night. Every day I think about Philip, but I try to let it inspire me instead of bringing me sorrow. Diane also asked for her son's death to inspire. She marked her 52nd birthday in court, hoping to launch change at colleges everywhere. This is one aspect of college life that must stop, she said of hazing. This will only happen, gentlemen, if you and I stand together and accept that this happened, accept the punishments for breaking the law, accept the death of a friend because of poor judgment and not caring about the safety of your fraternity brothers. Ramo will serve 30 days in jail, Serrato 90 days. Serrato says when he gets out, he hopes to speak to college students about the dangers of underage drinking, ensuring Philip's death was not in vain, perhaps a fitting birthday gift for his mother. It was said that Philip drank about 37 one-ounce shots of hard liquor. He passed out and was carried to an adjoining room called the drunk room, where he was supposed to be watched by sober brothers. After 1:30 a.m., one of the brothers discovered Philip on the floor, unresponsive. Two frat brothers tried CPR and another called 911, but the young man died. No other fraternity members have been charged in this case. They're hoping to make change. The next is William Torrance. He passed away February 17th, 2012. Delta Gamma Iota, Vincennes University. William died of alcohol poisoning after a midnight ceremony. Police say they believed alcohol was a factor in the death of the 19-year-old. Some fraternity members tell 14 News they even canceled their midnight activities Friday night after Torrance was found dead early that morning. Those who knew the freshman say he will be missed. For those who actually knew Will, this is kind of a comforting stage. Johnson says he met Torrance during freshman orientation. He always wanted to be outside doing something with friends. He always wanted to be active. He was found dead early Friday morning at Delta Gamma Iota, where they say minors were drinking the night before. This is one of the times where we just have to stick through it. The university says Delta Gamma Iota hasn't been recognized by the campus since fall of 2010 due to unmet requirements. Another fraternity said this event reminds them of the importance of alcohol safety. I'm working to stop the underage drinking because we don't need that kind of risk with us trying to get back onto campus. Some fraternity members say if there's alcohol at parties, they take precautions. We have a bunch of people that stay at the parties that don't drink and just make sure that everyone else is okay. See, that's like a drink monitor. I know that sounds like a Debbie Downer, whatever, but it's being safe and making sure no one gets hurt. They're not walking by themselves or driving, said one of the students. After 2 student deaths already this year, they're making sure students know about year-round campus counseling. Also, they are working on offering even more alcohol safety sessions and getting students through what they call community-felt tragedies. We all just have to be friends, learn, and comfort each other. And that's it. That's all I could find about Torrance. And I think, to be honest, Torrance is the one that does not have a photo, because I could not find a photo of him either. David Bogenberger, he passed away November 2nd, 2012, Pi Kappa Alpha, Northern Illinois University. David died of a cardiac arrhythmia triggered by alcohol poisoning. That event that night involved the pledges rotating between several rooms in the fraternity house, being asked a series of questions, and then being provided cups of vodka and other liquor to drink. This resulted in the pledges drinking a large quantity of alcohol in about a 2-hour time period. Pledges were told to drink regardless of whether they answered questions correctly. In 2015, 22 former Pi Kappa Alpha fraternity members were convicted of various charges related to the death. None of the men were sentenced to jail time, mostly receiving fines and community service. The parents of David in 2012, after pledging a fraternity, have settled a wrongful death lawsuit for $14 million. He's only 19 years old, y'all. Pledges were urged to drink excessive amounts of vodka and were given buckets for when they were sick. David was found dead in the house the next morning after drinking approximately 27 ounces of vodka in 75 minutes. His blood alcohol content was 0.351 at the time of his death. The Bogenberger family sued fraternity and sorority members who were present at the party, the local fraternity organization, and National Fraternity Organization. The national organization was later dropped from the lawsuit after the Illinois Supreme Court ruled in an earlier decision this year that it could not be held liable for the local fraternity's actions. In 2015, 22 fraternity members were convicted of misdemeanors in connection to David's death. All were ordered to pay a fine of $500 to $1,000 and complete 100 hours of community service and spend 24 months on either supervision or conditional discharge. The university also shut down the school's chapter. Gary Bogenberger called the settlement a hollow victory. but that he hoped his son's case sends a loud and direct message to national fraternities and sororities that their day of reckoning is fast approaching. There have been nearly 40 kids killed in hazing since my son. It's absolutely reprehensible for this to continue. That's the message we really want to get out there. Something horrible happened, and there are dire consequences of just ignoring these pledges to satisfy their own egos during these initiations. Now, this is a more detailed what happened, like explaining it, but they said on November 2nd, Pi Kappa Alpha Fraternity held a party called Parents' Night, which involved the assignment of Greek dads and moms to students pledging the frat. The Greek dads are upperclassmen in the fraternity that serve as mentors to the pledges, while the Greek moms are members of associated sororities. Parents' Night involved the pledges rotating between several rooms in the fraternity house, being asked a series of questions, and then being provided cups of vodka. And it just them rotating and continuously drinking and asking questions and getting drunker and drunker and just putting more and more alcohol in their face. He ended up passing away. Now, there were 5 students that are facing felony charges, and they might get up 3 years in prison for David's death. So, I mean, that's good, right? That some are being held accountable. Robert Champion. He passed away November 19th, 2011, Florida A&M Marching Band, Florida A&M University. Robert was a drum major in the university's marching band. He collapsed after undergoing a ritual referred as Crossing Bus C, in which band members must walk from the front of the bus to the back while other band members kicked, punched, and hit him with straps, drumsticks, and other objects. Fellow band members told detectives that the ritual is required in order to be considered for leadership positions. Oh, the university president, James Ammons, resigned shortly after, as did 2 faculty members. The band was suspended for over a year. The leader, Dante Martin, was convicted of manslaughter and hazing charges and sentenced to 6 years in prison. The parents said that they won't get their son back, but no one wins here, so there should be a sadness all the way around for everyone. And we hope and pray and continue our mission to eradicate hazing to end it. Champion's mother, Pamela, told CNN. Champion was 26, and the medical examiner said that he suffered multiple blunt trauma blows and internal bleeding from the beating. Champion died in the parking lot within an hour after the assault. Martin is scheduled for sentencing on January 9th, 2015, and he was sentenced. FAMU famed marching band known as the Marching 100 was suspended for 2012 to 2013 school year after Champion's death. The college pledged to make reforms and address hazing both on and off campus. Robert's lifelong dream was to become a drum major of Florida A&M University in the spring of 2011. He achieved this aspiration after successfully navigating a rigorous selection process. Initially a clarinet player, he quickly ascended the ranks of the band, earning the esteemed position of drum major as one of 6 students in the band of 350. He led the ensemble adorned in a distinctive white uniform carrying white batons. He had aspirations to become the head drum major in the coming year. On the night of November 19th, 2011, after the final football game, that's when the tragedy struck. And they did. Fellow band member did call 911. Champion was vomiting and having difficulty breathing upon the arrival of the emergency responders. He had a high temperature and had multiple contusions on his body. Despite attempts of resuscitation, Champion continued to throw up and passed away just a few minutes later. In May 2012, charges were brought against 13 FAMU band members in connection with the hazing murder of Robert Champion. State prosecutors elevated the charges against certain members of the FAMU Marching 100 band from felony hazing to manslaughter. In 2014, Jesse Baskin became the first person to receive a jail sentence in connection with the case. He was sentenced to 1 year behind bars, 5 years of probation, and 300 hours of community service. Dante Martin, identified as a ringleader, received a 77-month sentence in January 2015 on charges of manslaughter and felony hazing. In September 2015, Caleb Jackson became the last person to be convicted in connection with the death of Robert. He pleaded no contest to manslaughter for his role in the incident and received a 4-year sentence. 3 other defendants, Aaron Golson, Daryl Cyrnall, and Benjamin McNamee, received 10 years of probation. Additional defendants either accepted plea deals or were sentenced to probation. Despite facing the prospect of longer prison sentences, the presiding judge deemed the sentences lenient, signing champion status as a willing participant in the hazing. Oh my god, that has to be devastating for a fucking family to hear. That would tear me hell up. That would kill me. I am so sorry. George Desdunes passed away February 25th, 2011, Sigma Alpha Epsilon, Cornell University. George died of alcohol poisoning following the fraternity ritual that is the reverse of traditional hazing rituals. Freshman pledges kidnapped older members, blindfolded them, and binded their wrists and ankles with zip ties and duct tape. The fraternity brothers are asked trivia questions about Sigma Alpha Epsilon and drink if they get an answer wrong. George, son of a single mom, a Haitian immigrant, joined the fraternity at Cornell in part because he thought fraternity connection would help him find a good job after graduation. He never made it to that proud day. In the early hours of Friday, September 25th, 2011, the 19-year-old sophomore died in a hazing incident. He was kidnapped, blindfolded, wrists and ankles bound with duct tape. Desmond drank a shot of vodka for every incorrect answer to a trivia question until he passed out. Fraternity pledges hoisted him onto a leather sofa, where custodians found him motionless a few hours later and called 911. Marie-Andre wailed when she saw the corpse of her son in the morgue. The president, Martha Pollack, announced frat house reforms last week. It was but the latest effort by successive Cornell administration since the senseless death of George to put an end to the hazings threatens the health and safety of our students and casts a shadow over our community of scholars. Pollack set ambitious goals for her administration, not only to eradicate hazing, but to present an example for other universities to follow. It remains to be seen if Pollack's announced changes banning hard liquor, stiffer penalties for hazing violations, mandatory educational programs, tighter house supervision will have any greater impact than the Bollywood initiative to end the pledge as we know it. Put forth in 2011 by David Scorton, who was Cornell's president at the time of the tragedy, Cornell disbanded the SAE chapter for a minimum of 5-year period after George's death. The judge found the fraternity guilty on state hazing charges and imposed a $12,000 fine. 3 SAE pledges were acquitted of hazing charges. Destun's mother brought a $25 million wrongful death suit against the national fraternity and eventually reached a multi-million-dollar out-of-court settlement. Now, this is another 2, Victoria Carter and Brianna Gather. They passed away in 2010, and they are in a sorority, the Delta Sigma Theta, East Carolina University. Carter and Gather died in a traffic accident around 6:30 a.m. on the way to their hair appointment to prepare for initiation. Gather and Carter had undergone a number of grueling hazing activities that week, including the Delta TV, in which the places were forced to get into and hold a push-up position, do wall sits, and maintain the stance for a long period of time, and do the Delta chair standing on one leg and holding heavy bricks over their heads. Pledges also wore Delta lipstick, hot sauce rubbed on their lips, and ate a Delta apple, a large raw onion. They were also asked to eat large amounts of cottage cheese and drink buttermilk. The driver of the vehicle, a fellow pledge who survived, pleaded guilty to misdemeanor death by motor vehicle. According to the lawsuit filed by the family, she was suffering from excessive and overwhelming fatigue, exhaustion, and sleep deprivation, and fell asleep behind the wheel because of the pledging exercises. The night and morning hours prior to the accident, the pledges had been practicing the probate death march, an aspect of the initiation ceremony. They did not have the opportunity to sleep as a result of the long hours of practice. So, due to these grueling and heinous hazing, the driver of the car was so exhausted she fell asleep. And just think about that, y'all. She has to live with that for the rest of her life, that she accidentally killed 2 of her pledge sisters. That just gave me chills. 2 ladies died because of an accident, and it was. That's devastating. The last person I'm going to talk about today is Samuel Mason. He passed away October 15th, 2010. Tau Kappa Epsilon, Radford University. He died of alcohol poisoning, 0.48, after taking part in the fraternity's family drink ritual, where pledges are given a large amount of alcohol and told to finish an allotted portion. In this case, she claims the alcohol was in a 5-gallon gas can. Wow, y'all. 5 fraternity members of Radford University have pleaded guilty to hazing a student who later died. Samuel was pledging for Tau Kappa Epsilon fraternity when he was given a ritual bottle of liquor and drank it in an hour. Mason was found dead at the Fairfax Street home. An autopsy put his blood level at 6 times the legal limit for driving. The 6th defendant did not enter a plea Friday, and his case was continued for 12 months. 22-year-old Raul Lawson, as the most truthful TKE witness, testified under oath. Last week, a 7th man charged in connection with Mason's death pleaded guilty to 2 misdemeanors. He was sentenced to a 2-month jail sentence and a $1,000 fine. Radford chapter of TKE has been suspended by the fraternity's international organization during the investigation. Yeah, so 7 altogether members were charged with hazing in connection with the death of Samuel. Mary Mason sued TKE fraternity, but not the university, on behalf of her late son Samuel. Mason claims that chapter officers and members forced Samuel to consume favorable amounts of his family drink, rendering him helpless and in need of emergency medical care, which defendants failed to obtain. Instead, Mason says the fraternity members carried her son to his apartment where he was found dead, having vomited in his bed where he had been placed, with a blood alcohol level of 0.48%. The complainant states, had Samuel received timely proper care instead of been removed from the house as he was succumbing to alcohol poisoning, suffering, and slowly dying, he could have survived unharmed. And that is true. Get help, kids. Get help, or you will be charged murder in some states. I'm hoping they do it in all states. Mason claims the tradition of giving pledges alcohol to drink in a 3 to 5 gallon red gas can, labeled Drink Maggot Drink. Samuel Mason's big brother, defendant Dustin Moore, encouraged Mason to finish a bottle of the family drink. Samuel died from alcohol poisoning. I guess, kids are kids. They're like, oh, he's probably just passed out. Like I said, I'm going to put a video in here. The day after Samuel's death, representatives from TKE arrived at Radford's campus to meet with the Omicron Omega chapter, and showing no remorse over Samuel's death, instructed the TKE members in a code of silence, instructing them to refrain from making public statements, encouraging them to cover up a non-cooperation with the police. Holy crap, that is bad. It is widely reported and well known among Greek organizations that at least one student had died in fraternity pledge activities every year since 1970. Mason says that TKE should have been more aware of these statistics, but instead the fraternity has been involved in numerous hazing and misuse of alcohol and drug incidents. She seeks punitive damages for wrongful deaths. A special grand jury handed down indictments in regard to Mason's death. The investigative grand jury heard testimony over 3 days, and on Friday, September 9th, 2011, returned indictments against 7 members of the TKE fraternity: Dustin Lee Moore, Ryan and Lawson, Chadwick and Ivanko, Christopher Michael Peasy, William Taylor Burke, Christopher Scott Corthron, and Lewis Hoskins Tribal were each indicted for 1 count of supplying alcohol to an underage person and 1 count of hazing. All charges and misdemeanors, and all of them have been served. It needs to be more, y'all. It needs to be more. I am very sorry to the families. I am sorry for your loss. These were young kids and young adults that did not have to die. It is heartbreaking, and it needs to stop. It needs to stop. And it's still going on. It's still going on. People are still dying till this day. It makes me so angry. I will be doing another segment of this going into the 2000s. and I'm not sure when that will be coming out, but it will be coming out in the future. I am sorry that I did miss a month of uploading. I've been going through a lot of medical issues right now, and I'm trying my best, everybody. Just know I am always thinking of y'all, but I love y'all so much. I hope y'all enjoyed this video, and please like and subscribe, and stay safe. Until next time.
Digging through your old birthday letters, a crumpled 20 still in the box. I don't think that I could ever find a way to spend it, even if it's the last 20 that I've got. Oh, I'm still holding on to everything that's dead and gone. I don't wanna say goodbye, 'cause this one means forever. Now you're in the stars, and 6 feet never felt so far. Here I am alone between the heavens and the embers. Oh, it hurts so hard for a million different reasons. You took the best of my heart and left the rest in pieces. I'm still